everyone. Welcome to Work Love Wednesday. Daisy and Smelter here for Work Love Wednesday. It is time for Work Love Wednesday. Good morning. Let's see if this works. I just tried to go live and there was technical difficulties and Facebook was not working. What are you going to do? Anyways, what I was saying before it cut me off is that I'm late. I guess I'm not late because last week I kind of told you that I'm like adjusting my norms and still trying to figure all that out. I'm sure by the time I figure it out, then school will start and then I'll have to adjust my norms again because that's just what's happening. Other things. Oh, you know, one of my favorite things about summer is that when the sunshine comes out, I get a nice tan that I actually enjoy not wearing makeup. So today, no filter, no makeup, just chilling. Wednesdays are a pretty chill day for me in regards to the office. I get up super early to do the morning Qigong class at the office. And today I actually came back home because it was just easier than dragging Madeline out of bed before coming. All right. So I'm just checking the event log to see, hopefully, fingers crossed, this is working. But we'll just figure it out. And worst case scenario, I'll download it at the end and upload it. Speaking of that, today on my list is downloading all 30 episodes of Work Love and starting to edit them to get them on YouTube and also to embed them on the website so that you can watch them all. Last week I talked about, as part of simplifying, I will not be doing the lives on Instagram anymore. And so I want to give other avenues for Instagram to find the videos because not everyone's Facebook people. Hard to believe, but not everybody. And so if they want to go on the website, which the website is an awesome resource. So if you haven't checked out leadershipisart.com, check it out. It actually has become the home of anything that I want to post and put out there. So the podcast, the Heart of It podcast, if you love Work Love Wednesdays, you're going to love the Heart of It podcast, which is kind of where it started before I got comfortable kind of vlogging and reflecting like this. And now that podcast is actually in the creative process of getting revamped to launch for its new season in the fall because the Wednesdays kind of took my weekly reflection. And that's really what this has been, is a weekly reflection around growth to make sure that I maintain alignment. In some really awesome way, I've created this little mini community of accountability partners who I love how this has become a platform to keep in contact with so many people and people to ask me questions that really make me think and almost like further my growth even more so. And so because of that, I want to have this community and share it. I mean, one of the most beautiful things about connecting with others that I've learned is wanting to connect all of you together, meeting all these amazing people that I feel like should just know each other, but they don't. And so I want to find avenues for making that happen and really start to bring this Work Love Wednesday as a community, because there are several of you who come every Wednesday to get your dose of work love, to see how that falls on you and resonates with you as I'm going through my lessons, how they may relate to the lessons that you're encountering, and as a result, where you're going in your growth. And I would love to give a platform so that we can have all of those kinds of conversations happening. So I'm kind of thinking about that as well. If you have any ideas, please feel free to send me emails or private message me like so many of you already do. Leave comments. I always encourage comments on the posts. And as you're reading comments on the videos, feel free to engage in that dialogue. I mean, that's not just for me to come back and talk, but if you have something to share, I mean, one of the greatest learning opportunities out there is when we can learn from each other in an environment of community. So there's my little riff on that. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of creative kind of thinking, and today is a big creative thinking day for me, which is why I kind of dress like a bum. that's all good because I feel very chill and very relaxed, and it's going to be an awesome day. But today I want to talk to you about 3 signs for when it is time to move on, because this is a lesson that has come up for me in the last month with a specific situation that very strongly is reminding me of this. So these signs populate on a frequent basis for when I need to move on, for my benefits of my own personal and professional growth. And what I mean by that is when it's time to move on, we have the ability to basically in our learning cycles go from being comfortable to uncomfortable back to comfortable again. So when we start, things that really push us and help us grow are very, very uncomfortable. And then we may not believe that this will ever happen in some scenarios, but it does, because I've experienced it time and time again. We become comfortable. And so when do we know, when that level of comfort, that we need to start transitioning to the next thing or looking for another way to push ourselves and take it to another level? Because I'm not wholeheartedly sold on the idea that once it's become comfortable, you've got to transition immediately. Otherwise, we would be like run around like crazy. And I think comfort is needed. I think having those periods of time where you can just enjoy and be fully present and not have the pressure of everything is absolutely necessary. And so I don't want to ever pressure somebody to not enjoy that moment and not see comfort as a place. I don't want you to view comfort as a place of like a huge warning sign or a red flag, or have a place of comfort become an instant discomfort to you because you know that means that you've got to move on. But there are 3 really major signs that I think allow me to know when I need to move on, when I need to take it to another level, take it up a couple notches, and really start to push myself again. And these three signs come from my favorite book in regards to personal and professional growth, which is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And I'll come back and link those in the comments. But if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. I call it the prerequisite to any personal and professional growth book out there. So if you love self-help books, if you love business books and you read them but you struggle with how to apply them to your life, Jeff Olson's book, The Slight Edge, lays the foundation for how to take those things and start incorporating them into your life. So love, 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 love that book. In fact, today I was realizing that usually we keep a couple in stock at the office so that when people want them or I recommend them, instead of, if you don't have Amazon Prime, you can get it from the office. So I was like, we need to stock up and have a couple here because we're sold out again. But these 3 signs come from one of the major sections of the book when he talks about life paths, being on a path to success and on a path to failure. And these 3 signs are actually associated with how he identifies if someone is on the path to failure, which for me, I think is a really great way to justify why these signs would be ones I want to pay attention to. Because if these are present, especially if all 3 are present, that means that I am shifting and moving towards a path to not getting to where I want to be. So let's talk about these 3 things. So I guess let me just give you the premise of the situation that I'm going through right now that has allowed me to realize that these things are kind of happening. And so really what it comes down to is, in addition to Leadership Arts Associates as part of that, I'm really passionate about, and I always have been, this has been a really big struggle with the business of doing pro bono work, so doing work for free and giving back, because I'm a really big believer that if I find somebody who wants to make a change in their organizations and with people, I don't want financial means to be the reason why that won't happen if I know I can help. And so I invest my time in a lot of different places. There's a couple places that I've been there for several years. and giving time and my services. And that situation has, well, one of them has basically been what has kind of sparred these 3 signs that's telling me that it's time that maybe my work there is done, that I've gotten to a place where I'm no longer of service to them because of what's happening for me internally. So let's talk about these signs, and this will make a little more sense about what I'm talking about. So a sign number 1 is blame. So this is when an individual starts to remove any sort of accountability on themselves and shifting to a state of blame almost constantly. So this is things like if something is happening with this organization and I'm not happy with it, I always am very quick to point and blame at other people. And that is the number 1 thing that started to happen to me. I usually am extreme to a fault of taking things on myself, and always, even if I want to blame, I usually switch it pretty quickly about how I'm accountable in the scenario. And you've heard a lot about me talking about healthy relationships and how people have to meet you in the middle, and how there's always about 50% of every situation that we can own, whether we're allowing it to happen to us, whatever those scenarios are. And so for the most part, I do hit that 50%. I might digress. I'm not perfect, but I usually do come back around, and then usually I'm more extreme, where actually I go past the 50% and allow the person to be less accountable, and making myself almost wholeheartedly accountable for whatever the circumstances are that is happening in the situation. So much so that, you know, Josh and Mary Rose usually are coaching me through how it's not my fault. I need to let some things go. You know, the other person is accountable as well. So it's just been interesting in that fashion. But in this scenario, it came clear as day that I was always in a state of blame. So anytime something that came through that I was not happy about or just hit me the wrong way, I could give you a long list of people who I believe are to blame for that. You know, that's their fault. It's not my fault, it's their fault. Sign number 2 is a sense of entitlement. So believing that certain things should just be given to you because of all of the work that you've done, and you can have the solid justification that you're just owed certain things. So we see this a lot in organizations with out of loyalty, when I've been there really long and it comes up for internal promotions, that I was owed that and I should just be given that, and that there shouldn't be an interview process or whatever that scenario is. And so this started bubbling up for me as well with this particular organization of I found myself feeling like I was entitled to certain things or certain resources or aspects. And so it really was a sense of entitlement. There was no other justification beyond it except being entitled. And I can tell you that because whenever I would say what I wanted, the reasons behind it were either not present or very, very shallow, extremely shallow. And I would state them almost like they're common sense references to back me up. And when you would look at other people, when I would say things, it's a rude awakening when you work in the business of self-reflection and personal growth, and you have people like Tony Hernandez in The Office Next Door, and even Mary Rose, when we're all trying to hold each other accountable. And so when you're allowed to vent and complain, but then inevitably their reactions just kind of tell you that you're venting and there's no serious, solid foundation here for your thoughts and your feelings, except for that you're being entitled. So that's number 2. The last but not least is Jeff Olson talks about basically straying from doing what you know you should be doing, straying from your doing the simple disciplines, the actions you should do every single day. I view this as you just actively disengage. And so, yeah, you stop doing things, the small things that you used to do before, you don't do anymore. And this is kind of like the cherry on top of the sundae. This is almost like what solidifies for me that it's time to move on, because it starts to take a hit against your credibility, against your reputation, against who you build yourself up to be, and your values. They start to disappear, and they start to disappear in front of these individuals, and you don't ever want to do that. And that's why disengagement is so dangerous, and why I'm so passionate about it within organizations is when you have a disengaged employee or you're disengaged yourself, you're not showing up for work or in any interaction or even a relationship as you. You've put blocks up, you've put walls up, you've almost shut down, and hopefully you're showing up in some other aspect of your life, so it's not completely shut off. But I've also seen people who've disengaged, especially if they're very professional, passionate about their professional lives, and they find themselves disengaging from their work. They disengage from life, and it's quite frightening. And I've been there, where actually a couple times. I mean, that's what the Unstuck You method is all about, is ending up at this end of the road where I'm disengaging. And because of that, my marriage was suffering. My relationship with my kids was suffering. My friendships sometimes were non-existent because I didn't want to engage with anyone. I just wanted to kind of have myself a pity party, lock myself away, and live in this very dark place. And so disengagement in its early stages is a great sign, but also recognizing, what does that path look like if I don't leave? And one of the things that I always love to do with people in coaching scenarios, especially when they don't want to let go of something, is do essentially a timeline, a consequence timeline. So let's lay out what's happening currently. And if things don't change, what can happen? What are the other events that possibly could happen? In the world of business, most of the time when I'm working with leaders, it ends with having to do mass layoffs, them being fired, or the business getting shut down. And sometimes these are really long timelines. Sometimes they're not so long. But it puts things in real big perspective as far as what's going to happen. In a scenario like this, if I'm being disengaged, I might say, what happens if things don't change and I continue to feel the way that I'm feeling? How are people going to view me? How am I going to view myself as I'm continuing down this path? And is that the person that I want to be in a couple of months from now, or a year from now? And usually the answer is no. And so that's pretty easy for me to see that it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to have a change of landscape. I've been here. I've been of service. I've gotten what I needed for my growth. And now it's best for both parties to separate and continue on in our journeys in a less intertwined fashion. So 3 signs for when it is time to move on. I think they're really helpful. I highly, highly recommend Jeff Olson's book, The Slight Edge, if you're intrigued at all by these 3 signs. This is just one of those nuggets that I've taken with me, for close to maybe almost 10 years now, that I've been kind of in the back of my mind living with this slight edge kind of philosophy. So it really was a huge game changer for me. It changed my life. It changed my professional aspect and my perspective on a lot of different things. And I think it's one of the things that helps me the most in being an entrepreneur and being a business owner when things just suck, because they do sometimes. They just do. It's hard work. There's never really a day off. And you're always, always thinking about the next thing or trying to plan. And it's a lot. On the plus side, chilling out for the summer, if you haven't noticed that we have different background here, but you kind of see the same stuff because you see Josh's desk behind me. I am in the process of redecorating the office because this is a place that I spent a lot of time with and film videos in, and it just felt heavy. And so I'm in the process of giving it a nice little revamp. So you can watch in the coming weeks to see how this morphs, right? I don't know, transforms. Next week, I'll be in Vegas for the National SHRM Conference. So excited. Brene Brown is one of the keynote speakers, and I have been wanting to see her speak since I opened Leadership Arts Associates. So I'm so pumped that I'm going to see her. And then also, I think Lionel Richie is a I don't know. It's going to be epic. It's going to be awesome. So next Wednesday, we will have Work Love. Not sure when, but it will come. Work Love Wednesday. Probably on West Coast time because I'm not going to get up super duper early. And yeah, but it's happening. It will happen. Have a great week, everybody. I'll talk to you later.